Okay, so Sacrifice Arcadia Bay is obviously like the selfish ending, and you just kind of stay with Chloe forever. But obviously, Sacrifice Chloe is the greater good. You know, that's the idea, and what she says is true. Like, how many times has Chloe died in this universe, in this playthrough? I mean, she was euthanized in episode 4, and she was shot dead at the end of episode 4. And whatever other possible permutations, the train. She was stuck on the train tracks. That was another one. She could have been stabbed and shot by Frank. There were a lot of opportunities for Chloe to die in this. So, it is entirely possible that Chloe was killed. Well, is meant to die. So, the truth is, if you're going to sacrifice Arcadia Bay, you're doing that purely to save the. You're doing the exact opposite then, to the greater good. You know, the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few. This is the exact opposite. It's not a good decision, but that's what has to be done. So I'm assuming I don't have any flashback on this, but it's time for Chloe to say goodbye. But at least it's on our terms, I suppose, and her terms. So,
Max, it's time. Chloe, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this. I know, Max, but we have to. We have to save everybody, okay? And you'll make those fuckers pay for what they did to Rachel.
that's true. With all the
We
prior
need to get
knowledge
her
now,
this
we
week.
can pin everything
It
down
was the
to.
best farewell gift I could have hoped for. You're my hero, Max.
And this is what she wanted. So there. That's what Chloe wanted. That's what our Max wanted in this playthrough. And there you go.
I'll always love you. Now get out of here, please. Do it before I freak. And Max Caulfield, don't you forget about me. Never.
The sad thing is, you can't even take like a picture or anything because the whole cycle will continue again. So this is definitively the end. And here we go. Are we don't even need to do that. And thus it all starts with one little butterfly. And here we go again. Back to where it all started. Here we go.
It's cool, Nathan. Don't stress. You're okay, bro. Just count to 3. Don't be scared. You own this school. If I wanted, I could blow it up. You're the boss. So what do you want?
I hope you check the perimeter, as my step-ass would say. Now, let's talk business.
I got nothing for you.
Wrong. You got hella cash.
Jesus.
You don't know who the fuck I am or who you're messing around with.
Where'd you get that? What are you doing? Come on, put that thing down!
Don't ever tell me what to do. I'm so sick of people trying to control me.
You are going to get in hella more trouble for this than drugs.
Nobody would ever even miss your punk ass, would they?
Get that gun away from me, psycho!
And there we have it. There you have it, folks. destiny. So perhaps Chloe was right. You're just delaying the inevitable all this time. And with it, we cause a butterfly effect. With every small change, with every small alteration we were making to time and reality, you were causing more and more consequences. In fact, we saw them. The storm, all the weather, every adverse effect, all started with this. So now let's see. So we have Nathan arrested by Manson. And now all of our memories are gone as well. Ah, but Jefferson is caught. So Max does actually have prior knowledge of everything. All of our memories are gone with her as well. Everything. We seem to have pictures of her now. And back to our lighthouse. But the world is saved. There's the sunset is back, no storm, and Arcadia Bay and indeed the wider world is safe. As much as we didn't like to do it, it was necessary. Well, at least, in our view, it was necessary. Now let's see what we have. The funeral now for Chloe, it seems. I can see Kate there anyway. Noticing that we aren't there, it seems, unless we're right at the back. Perhaps we went to the lighthouse instead of the funeral. No, there we are. There we have it. There's Frank as well. Yep. I didn't notice that throat tattoo on his neck there. If it even is a tattoo. And there she is. Chloe, the butterfly. Yep. There you have it. So I think that's us wrapped up then, I presume. Yep, that's it. And that is indeed Life is Strange. Not just episode 5, but the entire game itself. From start to finish. So, that was a powerful ending, to say the least. Tough choice that I think we're all, expecting. But I suppose it's the best time as any to give my kind of views on, first of all, this episode first, and then I'll talk about the game itself. So, final episode obviously went out to tie up everything, to, I suppose, how do we phrase this? Basically answer everything that we had from that point. There's nothing wrong with it. I didn't find anything wrong with the pacing as such here. Effectively half of it was, just trying to get rid of Jefferson. But I suppose that's to be expected, really, when you're in a dire situation like that. Then it went very surreal. Then obviously the middle of the episode was about getting to Warren and the last fucking avenue of saving everybody. But there was there was a kind of inevitability about it that Chloe was the block in the whole thing. But I guess the way it was presented, because obviously this is from Maxine's perspective, it was all presented like it was the last, it was like the last resort essentially. So I think that was pretty well done. It went very surreal then for the last I'd say hour or hour and a half of it, and it kind of reminded me of Indigo Prophecy, or Fahrenheit if you prefer, and that started off very similar, where it was just okay, we're just investigating a murder we've been accused of, and then right by the end of that game we're having fucking superhuman battles, talking about invisible infinite energy, and the whole world is ending around us. Now for me, that was a game that did that completely backwards, in my opinion. But this one did it okay, because it was actually justification for it. It was built up to it. You've been told that there are some weird things happening in it, and if you made a connection initially at the first episode, you could tell that they were connected. And it only it makes sense retroactively that you are connected with the kind of weird stuff that's happening in the town. So it did come full circle in the end. Now I did raise a few points at the start of this, basically seeing has it satisfied my kind of inquiries about the plot. As the first thing was, did it justify how Max got the power? And the answer is yes. Max got the power as a cause and effect of Chloe dying, and then I guess it did and it didn't, because it's entirely possible she always had the power, and it only triggered when she saw Chloe die. But I guess it's that kind of chicken and the egg thing. Would she have, if she didn't get the power, then the storm wouldn't have happened, but she saw the storm before the power. So it's a bit confusing that way, and it's a whole kind of meta narrative in a way. But either way, it's still I'm still satisfied with that. Did it tie up all the plot points? Well, I guess in our one it did. It actually, what I liked about it was that sequence where we were kind of walking up that path, and it did basically just review the game that we had, all the decisions that we made. So obviously, if you guys wanted to play this game yourselves, you wouldn't presumably make different decisions, or you might make the same decisions. You'll get a path that is either the same or different to the one I've had. For instance, I might play through this again, like, you know, just as normally, and I might get a different timeline. Hell, I might even get a completely different episode 4 if I'm correct in that assertion. So that's that. The final decision in the end was, I don't want to say it's like it wasn't a tough choice, because it wasn't. But it was presented as a choice that we didn't want to make. So it wasn't tough in how, like, oh, these are both very evenly balanced decisions. They're not. There's one very obvious decision, and that is to sacrifice Chloe. Or you can just, like, you know, not do that and sacrifice the entire town and everyone in it, and there's still no guarantee that, you know, the storm is going to end, because you've still fucked up time and destiny. You've still fucked up fate and destiny. So the decision was more so about biting the bullet, more so than choosing between two very grey issues. We've had a lot of decisions in the game that were like that. They were just like different. They weren't black and white. They were different shades of grey. That's okay, because they were in I suppose the more straightforward parts of the plot. You know, they were all about the characters and, you know, whatever it is. This one was something that, like, no matter what happens in the narrative, presumably it all still leads to that point up at the hill. And depending on your perspective and what you've done in that journey, the decision is either harder or easier to make. Like, we could have had a playthrough there where we didn't give a shit about Chloe and treated her like crap all the time, and potentially the decision is just as easy. Or, like we said, we actually went quite opposite here. Like, we built up quite a sexual relationship with Chloe at that, and it still came across as an even harder decision, which I think that was what it intended. Like, I think the whole thing is, you know, set up to, you know, be closer to Chloe, because that's obviously the plot. So yeah, very tough decision. Tough decision for Max to make, not for us, because obviously, you know, we know what to do. So that's me about episode 5. I enjoyed it anyway. I think the whole kind of abstract, like, weird, crazy stuff, the fourth wall breaks, all the kind of, like, the corridor and all that, I thought I really enjoyed that, because it wasn't necessarily an abstract thing. It was just so different and so, like, oh fuck, you know, you kind of weren't expecting it, considering everything was, I guess, relatively grounded at the start. And then it just kind of, it naturally had to go that way, because of course you're dealing with fucking time and universes and space and all this sort of shit. That's gonna happen. So, you know, I quite enjoyed that sequence. I enjoyed this whole episode, truly, because it was a finale. I was looking forward to it myself, so I guess that made it easier for the game to sell me on it. Okay, so what about the full game itself? First off, some of the negatives. One, the main big negative is that it doesn't do action very well. I obviously switched to a game controller halfway through, and that was a very necessary choice to make, because a lot of the things were timing related. You know, a bit of stealth involved, and ultimately just the way the game was made, the engine, the whole lot, it just didn't you know, feel optimized for action. You know, it was obviously meant for dialogue and characters and aesthetics, and when it did eventually try and be a game in a way, it kind of fell down flat. So yeah, that was pretty much that was the one big negative to it. There was a few plot holes actually towards the end. The biggest one I noticed was when we basically went out to save Jefferson, or we went out out of the dark room with Jefferson. Chloe, or no, hang on, I'm getting my universes mixed up now. See, it's so easy to do that. When we were in the plane to San Francisco, that's what it was. Basically, Chloe just kind of knew us, essentially. But going by the timeline of that universe, first of all, Nathan shooting like Chloe didn't happen. Therefore, we didn't meet Nathan in the parking lot afterwards, and then Chloe didn't roll up on our truck. So how do we just kind of meet Chloe on our own volition? Do we have like prior knowledge of that to go and suddenly just meet her in a house out in the fucking middle of nowhere? These are questions that were not answered. I guess it could be down to your own interpretation, but I think there was it was just like a text message that was put in, and it was purely put in to say that Chloe's alive in this universe, so it's making the universe look like more pleasant. Like, oh yeah, no, I'm happy with this. I mean, I've got my gallery visit. I've got my my award. Chloe is alive. Nathan's in prison. Fucking the other guy's in prison. Happy days. And then it all went to shit. But it didn't really think about the actual sequence of events there. But that's just the way it is. As for characters, I can't really, the characters are fine. I didn't have any outright problem with the main character. She developed pretty well, I think, because obviously the power gave her confidence, and then the confidence dropped like a stone when Kate died, and then went back up again and went back down when Chloe was as a quadriplegic. So that character did fluctuate, but at least it was consistent, But I guess another thing was that she just suddenly became this kind of she was trying to do good, but as much as she was trying to do good, it was backfiring. But at least you became self-aware of it, or at least you had the opportunity to be more self-aware of it. So I think that's fair. I didn't really have any other objections to the characters. To be fair, I didn't really look into some of the other minor players in this. There's obviously a lot of the college stereotypes that are there. Didn't really look into them, which is probably just took away from the experience and immersion of it all. But nothing much I could say there, I guess. Let's see, just get through all these decisions first and get to the end. And yeah, that's it. And there you have it. That was episode 5. So back to the main menu. So the positives then. Obviously, I enjoyed the story anyway, because it did certainly go places. I at least enjoyed the plot of it. I'm fond of how time travel can fuck up things. So I actually did enjoy it. I enjoyed the whole kind of initially when the first episode presented our power. I liked how it was done. It was suddenly just ugh, this is kind of boring. We're in a fucking photography class talking about some bloke who obviously I'm ignorant of, and then suddenly, everything changes. It was well done, and it really hooked me in. Then the first episode in particular, I would say, is probably my favorite episode, because it did so well introducing all of the plot points. You had the time travel with Max. You had the stuff with Nathan. Stuff with Chloe coming back, and then you obviously had the storm. A lot of things, and they were introduced in a sequential manner, but they didn't seem to they seemed to go in a more prioritized order. So you had Nathan's a bit of trouble. We did avoid him killing our best friend. Well, hey, our best friend is back and we're having some fun with him, but the stepdad is a bit of a nuisance. And then obviously we have this kind of overarching ominous storm that's on the way in. So there's a few other things I'm sure in episode 1 as well. Episode 2 was okay. It was a fairly poorly paced episode. I said this at the time as well, but it just felt like half the episode was just building up to the ending, which was obviously with Kate and who do you finger at the end. So the pacing of that was pretty poor, but it was supposed to be it's just a normal day, everything is fine, nothing bad is happening. But yeah, I guess so. Episode 3, I really loved the ending to episode 3, primarily because it just fucking hit you for 6. It really did. Just the way it was done, it was the whole kind of I discovered a new power. I want to know everything about this power, and I've done it. I've saved, I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, we saved Chloe's dad. That's what it was. And we thought, okay, if we save Chloe's dad, then Chloe's gonna grow up as a normal child and have nothing wrong with her. And then we see her, and she had the car crash instead. Perfectly set up, and just the fact that that's the last thing you see in that episode. Well done, fantastic, and again, just the way it was presented was outstanding. Episode 4, another good ending as well. Really kind of set everything up for the finale. The twist with Jefferson, it was again well shielded, all the way up until, let's say, just that scene in the Vortex Club where he just kind of walks past and just kind of gives this really sinister grin. And I kind of picked up on it because I noticed that they were doing the same thing with Warren. Warren had the same kind of speech pattern as Nathan, which I thought, ooh, that's weird. Why would why would he start talking like a psychopath? And then you just kind of see Jefferson walk in, and he's, doing not similar mannerisms in speech, but in kind of like his face and his personality. So yeah, that was well done as well. And again, just the kind of the shock of like Chloe getting shot. It had a big kind of dramatic feel to it. But at the time, we of course, thought, no, we could save her. We just create a new universe. But ultimately, it was with the finale that we realized, no, we can't save her. That it is just her time to die, and we just had to live up to that. What I was surprised though was we didn't. I know it kind of makes sense now in the context of the plot. Like, we had a choice between either saving Chloe or letting her go, but typically with these kind of things, there is like a self-sacrifice kind of option where just like, just Max jumps into the storm or something, and then they both cancel each other out. You could still save Chloe, but it is to your disadvantage. So I'm interested why they didn't do that. I'm assuming there's going to be a season 2 of this where, it could be a different story, it could be different people, could be set in the same universe. We don't know, but it was an interesting that you were left with that choice. Of course, it could be like a situational thing. If you're really kind of trying to associate with the Max character, it is like, oh shit, I only have these two choices. I can't think of anything else. That's really clutching at straws, though. So overall, another thing I noticed as well, another thing I haven't even mentioned, was the voice acting. And truthfully, the reason I didn't was because I didn't have to. Like, the voice acting was just at a consistently high level. There wasn't no like hammy acting in this. There wasn't no like overacting verbose voices or anything like that. Everyone felt, normal, comfortable in what the situation is, and the dialogue as well, for that matter, was consistent with the characters. I could believe that these people were millennials because that's the way they're talking. It's an easy thing to fuck up, in a way, not having the right language for the characters you have your game in. For millennials, you have to have them talk like millennials. You can't just have them talking with like proper English or proper pronouns. They have to have context, and I think that was one thing they kind of nailed down pretty well, because, like I said, it's something you can easily get wrong. What else is there to say? The voice acting was fine. Soundtrack, the licensed music, very kind of good use of musical breaks in it, because again, it was just like this whole cinematic presentation of it. It did a good job with that, so I'm quite happy with that. And the overall art and aesthetics of it, quite, it's in line with the theme of having like an actual like an artistic mind or photographer in it. So the whole kind of motif of the game did really well. And again, a lot of kind of subtle little changes. I noticed a thing about the Maxine's top. I don't know how much significance that has, but it was something I picked up on anyway. There's a few other hints as well, like Chloe's hair dye coming out, and even the title screen is actually changing from episode to episode. That was pretty cool. I like that, because it gave you it showed you the progression of, I guess, wherever you are in the story. And with episode 5, the storm is here, everything is fucked up, and it's up to you to save it. So it sets you up then for the final episode. I think I'd say I can recommend this game, absolutely. I mean, if you can, pick it up. It's a fairly cheap game on Steam, and I'd say have a go at it, play through it yourself, see what decisions you make, and see what timeline you get, because it could be entirely different to what I have. Like I said, I skimmed through a lot of the kind of like sub things going on with all the other characters. You can see how that develops. Does that like add into any kind of like special things at the end, or with those specific characters? And of course, make different decisions. See if I'm right with episode 4. Do we get a different timeline, or does it go back? Whatever it is. But either way, I thoroughly enjoyed this game for what it was, not as a game itself, but like an interactive story, and I think it did okay with the whole time travel thing. It's hard to be consistent for something that is essentially, wide-ranging and fluid like that. So in a way, if you're doing something with time travel, you kind of like set your own rules and just make sure you follow them to the fucking letter. Because the moment you deviate from it and make the whole thing seem inconsistent, then it doesn't make sense and you lost the plot. but this was okay. And I don't mean that by like, you know, introducing the new gimmicks. That's just like different facets of the power. That's not like changing the definition of time travel in this game. This is purely like, oh, Max has discovered something else. Let's try it. And what I mean, like, for time travel was like, okay, this is all you can do with the time travel. You can only go back a set amount of time. That's grand. You can go back to certain events. That's grand. And you can go back to different pictures. That's fine. That's all you need. It's still going back, basically. You can't go forward. If it suddenly just went, oh, fuck it, you can go forward, then it would look a bit, you know, flimsy, essentially. Because, like, your plot then could go, like, so many different ways if you said, okay, no, she can go forward this time. Okay, great. Then she could just kind of fix everything by going into the future, right? You know, I guess that's the way it's looking. Although, again, even when I'm saying that, she did technically go in the future with some of the pictures, so maybe. So yeah, that's Life is Strange. I give this I would recommend this game to play for yourself, see what you think of it. Again, if you're into this sort of thing, if you like this kind of like episodic format like Telltale and others like it, I would definitely go and check it out. It's a great alternative to Telltale, actually, because, you know, with the Telltale things, you can kind of expect where they're going, and a lot of the choices are like the same. The presentation and the format is all the same. This one is slightly different because, as I think I said in one of the previous wind downs, the fact that it gives you an opportunity to rewind for some of the choices, not all of them, but some of the choices, is kind of makes it more agonizing, because you can now see which kind of way both choices are going, and you still have to choose between one of them. You know, you don't kind of get that freedom with the Telltale games. You just, like, it's a snap decision. You make your choice and stick to it. But at least with this now, you're allowed to effectively chop and change, decide what you want to do, and see if it works out better. And sometimes, if it's a particularly grey matter like that, it can make the decision harder to make. So it kind of adds to that kind of mental turmoil of it all, I guess. But that's pretty much it. So this has been Life is Strange, and this has been Monday Madness. I have been Jonathan, and we'll be seeing you sometime soon with something completely different on the YouTube channel. But until then, thank you for watching, thank you for waiting, and good night.